Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, October 21st. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 2 days. The game against Michigan in 37 days. After going more than 3 months without landing a commitment in its 2022 class, Ohio State has landed a pair of them in the last 2 days. The first was Kenyatta Jackson, who we talked about earlier in the week with Dominique Smith. And then yesterday, in-state offensive lineman Avery Henry committed just days after receiving an offer himself. So where do those commitments leave the class, and how will the Buckeyes finish in the 2022 cycle? Buckeye Scoop recruiting analyst Bill Greene just released an update on his projections and a bunch of Ohio State's remaining targets for this cycle. He joins me now to discuss that. Bill, thank you for being me. Thank you for being here.
I know what you meant there, Tom. I'm glad to be here.
Once I've done a couple of these shows, I'll be able to get through an intro without thank you without saying something like thank you for being me. We'll get there. So a week or so back, Avery Henry was committed to Iowa State, didn't have an Ohio State offer, and now, ta-da, he's in the class. So what kind of prospect is Avery Henry?
He's a project. He's a long-term project. I wouldn't think he would be a guy that would hit the field next year. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Trey LaRue, who they took a couple of years ago, just a big-bodied kid that, you're hoping that you can help him get it together. Is he there now? No. If he was, he would have had an offer 6 months ago, So, but there's a lot to like with the kid. There's some length there. There's some, footwork. There's height. There's some things to like there. The competition he plays is about as bad as there could be in Ohio. But, you get him in. You look at him as a 3 or 4 year project. You work with him, and you try to develop him. That's where it is. There's a lot to like there. But for me to sit here and tell you he's Zach Rice or J.C. Latham would not be correct.
Yeah, and we were talking to Ryan Day earlier this week, and he was asked about, taking those sort of like project kind of kids, and what's your philosophy on doing that versus trying to get, this was in the context of like DeJuan Jones, where it's like, here's a kid who plays basketball, and like he's got an intriguing frame, and like I don't know, we'll see what he looks like in a few years. And DeJuan Jones has obviously turned into DeJuan Jones, but sure, that doesn't always work. And Ryan Day said, like, you can't do too many of those, but you can kind of take a flyer on one every once in a while.
I agree with him.
What do you make of the fact that Avery Henry got an offer this week? You mentioned him not having an offer 6 months ago. So the fact that he got an offer this week, is that a function of him making a big leap this fall? Is this an indication that they may be missing on some guys further up their board? Like, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think he's definitely taken a leap. And this is the kind of guy that we've seen offers in the past, late offers to, in-state O linemen. And they had other options in state, with Carter Smith and Ryan Baer. There are other guys out there. So this was obviously the guy they liked the best of the remaining in-state options. I think it's pretty clear that they're not going to get Emil Wagner. And I think this is kind of a replacement for Emil Wagner. I don't think it's a commentary so much on Ernest Green or Cam Dewberry, who I think that they're in the game for both of those guys. I don't think it bothers them to take a 5-man O-line class. I think 4 was kind of the goal, but I think they would stretch to 5. If they could land Dewberry and Ernest Green, they would take them. They're still chasing Billy Schroff, the Hinsman kid. There's some other guys on the line out there yet, that they're still trying to land. So we have to see where this goes with the O-line recruiting.
Well, you mentioned Zach Rice earlier. He's actually announcing his commitment Thursday night. He's a 5-star. There's a reason we didn't lead the show with him. It sounds like he's not going to pick Ohio State. They may get a hat on the table, but that may be about as far as it goes. So, with someone like Zach Rice out, and you just mentioned a whole bunch of names, so I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. How do you see this offensive line class finishing? You've got 3 guys in right now. Do they finish with 4? Do they finish with 5? And if so, who are those guys right now, at least in your mind?
Yeah, right now, 3 in the hopper, and chasing Ernest Green and Cam Dewberry, who they have really good shots to land. So my guess is they'll get one of those 2, possibly both. I guess you could get shut out of both. So it's just so up in the air right now. We don't know. But I do think, if Cam Dewberry commits soon and Ernest Green would commit on or soon after his visit for the Penn State game, I think they'd be done then with 5. They'd have their 5 and they'd be done. But if, Dewberry goes somewhere else, and if Ernest Greene goes to Georgia, like I think they're the favorite right now, then you got to get back in there and attack the board. You got to find at least one more. You can't have a 3-man class this year. They really need 4 for sure. And 5 would be fine with me. I mean, so we'll see how they do. I think 4 was their target number, though.
If you end up with one of those guys and it's a 4-man class, or if you end up with 2 guys and it's a 5-man, those 2 guys and it's a 5-man class, is that like is that like a B if you're grading the class? Is it a C plus? Is it a B plus? Where does that, they don't have the like elite 5-star guy there, but I mean, is that like a solid B kind of class if it's 4 of them?
I would say so. Yeah. Especially if Ernest Greene is in the class. Ernest Greene is very similar to Wyatt Davis in a lot of ways. And I think they would love to have another Wyatt Davis on that line. I mean, I think this year the need really was to land the tackles. And, I don't think Tigre Tushibola is a tackle. I don't think Dewberry can play tackle. Ernest Greene is not a tackle, but, Fitzpatrick is, and now Avery Henry's a tackle. So you got kind of projects there. We'll see. They've done a really good job developing linemen in the past couple of years. You mentioned DeJuan Jones. He's kind of a poster child for a project type kid. And, he's a heck of a player. I mean, DeJuan Jones, you can make a case that he's been their second best O lineman this year, behind Nicholas Pettit-Frere. So, it's not Zach Rice, it's not, these aren't the names that they targeted back in February and March that we kind of were hoping for. And then you get him in there and you got to develop them.
Yep. That's always true of offensive linemen, and definitely maybe even a little more true this year. The one other addition earlier this week was Kenyatta Jackson. We talked with him with Dom Smith about him on one of the shows earlier this week. But where do you see him fitting in on the line for Larry Johnson? Is he a pure edge to you? Like where do you think he plays?
Yeah, I think he's a pure edge. I really like him. This is really one of those rare package deals in recruiting that I don't believe in. I don't think they happen very often, but I think getting Kenyatta just totally cements the Ryan Turner commitment, because I think these two always wanted to play together in college. They were about as close as a package deal as you could get. And, a couple months ago, it looked like Ryan might have been wavering, but now that Kenyatta's in, I think Ryan Turner's totally solid. And I think this is about as close to a package deal as you can get. Both those kids come from a great program down in Florida. They're so well coached. And I really like Kenyatta Jackson. And they need, edge rushers in this class. And he fills that bill.
Well, Jackson was either the first or, maybe second defensive lineman in this class, depending on where you think Gabe Powers ends up.
Yeah.
How do you think they finish out this 2022 cycle on the defensive line? Because I mean, you're not taking 1.5 defensive linemen. So who else do they need to bring in to fill that class out?
Yeah, and even though they're probably you look at them and they have 1.5 guys committed, and there's 3 offensive linemen committed now, but I think they're in better shape D-line wise than they are O-line wise. I think they're set up to have a heck of a haul on that D-line. I think they're the favorite for Amari Abor, favorite for Caden Curry, favorite for Hero Kanu. You've got a fighting chance for Shamar Stewart if he takes that official visit that we kind of hope he might. Marvin Jones says he's coming for the Penn State game. I will need to see video evidence of him landing in Columbus, but he says he's coming. So, I think they're set up to really have a heck of a D-line class. No projects there. I mean, they're in on a lot of really solid players. I would put Chris McClellan and Kristen Miller in there as, they're hanging in there with them, so they've got a lot of irons in the fire. And Larry Johnson, I respect his recruiting ability so much that I think when we have this morning scoop, after signing day, I think we're going to be really happy with where they are in this D-line class.
Well, we've mentioned a couple of times the big recruiting weekend coming up for the Penn State game, and you have talked about a couple of guys who Ohio State really you need to see them on campus before you really buy in that they're a serious contender. who are some of those names to know for the game against Penn State next week, where, just the fact that this kid showed up will kind of move them, on your definitely, probably, maybe list, it would move them a rung or two up the list just to see them show up.
Yeah, there's two, and that's Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones, both big time D linemen out of Florida, and boy, just getting him on campus is so huge because, when you look at what Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni and Larry Johnson, what they do on these official visits, they do official visits as well as any school in the country. So if they can just get him on campus and lasso him in there for 48 hours, or so, the hit rate is so high for that. So do I expect to see Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones in this class? Not really. If they land in Columbus, then my optimism goes up. Just getting them here means so much because they do these official visits so well. So that's what I'm looking to see out of Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones is, do they actually show up?
Well, you can find more on Bill's thoughts on just a whole huge list of recruits. And, he does it in a really interesting way where he just kind of has like a running notebook almost in each of these individual kids. And he'll just have, here May 26th, and then it'll say June 10th, and then it'll say July 15th. And you can sort of see the trends with each of these individual kids as he's kind of following their recruitments all the way through. That is exclusively on our Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. It is just one of the many, many perks of being a member of the site. So consider signing up today. It is a fantastic community. Lots of great content from all of our insiders, including Bill and Alex Gleitman and Tony Gerderman, Kevin Noon, Mark Givler, Mick Walker, Dom Smith, Ross Fulton. There's a whole bunch of us. We're all there. It is a great community, fun place to be at BuckeyeScoop.com. And also make sure you check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that little bell that'll subscribe you to our channel. Then you get notified every time we do something live. We just last night we did live interviews with a whole bunch of Ohio State players. Did live interviews with Ryan Day and some of the assistant coaches earlier in the week. We'll do our live pregame show Friday night from Bloomington this week. A live pregame show Saturday before the game. A live postgame show. Live interviews with Ryan Day after the game. All that stuff is all for free at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. All you have to do is subscribe, and then you get notified every time we go live, so you never miss a thing. How easy is that? Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.